I'm gonna redraw art from my old DeviantArt account to see how much I've improved. I'm Man217, and for those of you who don't know, DeviantArt is an old website where we would post our art to before Instagram and all these other art websites. Let's see how bad my old art was. What is that? This is supposed to be Ryu or Ryu from Street Fighter. As you can see, I didn't really understand anatomy yet. I was very excited about how this one came out back then. I was so impressed by my stylization and the way that the hand looks, even though I know it's a bad hand. And the thing I noticed the most about this piece is, well, my rendering. My rendering was not there. There's very little rendering here. You can see a very soft shadow around all the edges of the character. It doesn't even matter where the light is coming from. I'm sorry you had to see this. I know I'm far from perfect now, but I think I've improved, and we're gonna find out together. I'm gonna pick this one to try to redraw. It's called Evo Paradox in 3D. This was for a contest that I joined to make a movie poster for this fictional movie that was gonna come out. They gave us a prompt about all the characters, and this one specifically, if I remember correctly, the prompt was a man with goggles, a lot of lights around him, using guns, and I think he had a belt. But I'm not sure because I had a thing for big belt buckles back then. I don't have the original prompt, so I can't share that with you. But we're gonna try to redraw this character. I'm not gonna redraw the poster, even though I love the in 3D part. That wasn't a part of the prompt. I just had the hands pointing out of the screen to make it look 3D. I think I should have got points for that. Maybe not a win, but honorable mention. That was awesome. So I want to make sure I keep those goggles, but instead of putting them on his forehead where they're not really functional, I put them on his eyes. I also needed to change his look a lot because he kind of reminded me of Marvel's Blade character. And I didn't want to steal a character. I decided to give his armor a little bit more armor detail because in the original it just looked like a flat plate on his stomach. And I feel like this new armor could give him more character, make him stand out as a main character. One thing that I remember from the prompt is that he carried guns. Every character prompt they gave us, the characters had different weapons to fight these shadow creatures, and his was a light gun. So designing his gun was a lot of fun. I'm not usually one who likes to design weapons because I'm never really happy with my weapon design, but I had a lot of fun with this gun, trying to make it more futuristic and trying to make it look like it doesn't just shoot regular bullets, it shoots light. I decided to keep his leather jacket, and because he is fighting darkness creatures, he needs more armor, so I gave him some shoulder pads. You can't hurt your shoulders. When I'm picking the colors, I kind of used a similar color scheme, but I add this blue color to the goggles and to his armor. Giving that armor on his chest two tones, make it stand out and make it pop more. I move on to the thing that I need to improve the most, the rendering. I used to use this soft airbrush rendering that is very frowned upon today. It makes it look unprofessional, it kind of makes it look muddy, and if this is your style, this is your style, but you gotta try hard to make it look good. I didn't understand shadows and I didn't understand rendering. A lot of shadows in real life are hard shadows, but you do what you want, it's your style. But if you want to stick to more of a realism, semi-realism, you got to get some hard shadows in there. A variation in your shadows is a really good idea. So I use that soft airbrush still, but I bring down the opacity to almost not even noticeable. I do this because I use cell shading technique, and adding that soft shadow underneath that shaded layer kind of adds a blended look. I add another layer on top of that layer and I get my hard shadows in there. I try to make sure that I render around the muscles because I understand muscle anatomy a little bit more and I understand rendering a little bit more. And one thing that I really love to do now is adding some rim light. It separates your character from the background, something that I did not have in the original. He kind of got lost in that darkness of the background. So I finished my character and I think he came out great. Now I do still like the original poster. I know the drawing isn't very well done, but I love that 3D thing and I kind of wish I would have redid that. But I wanted to focus more on the character design and my rendering, and I like the character design now way more than I like the original. Let me know in the comments down below if you agree with me. Let me know if you think I need to improve on other things. And while you're doing that, we're gonna move on to the next one. Would you look at this, Wesker versus Storm, and just like my skills in Marvel vs. Capcom, my attention to anatomy still has not improved in this one. Look at Wesker's arm. I don't think it should be doing that. My rendering hasn't improved much either. The one thing I noticed the most here though is my line art. There's no variety of thick and thin lines, and it's very jittery. You can see all the little jitters in my hand. I don't think I had a good tablet at the time, and honestly, this is way before Photoshop introduced a stabilization. I'm gonna pick this one that I titled Loyalty to see if I can improve it. As you can see here, there's a woman with her 2 henchmen behind her, but I'm gonna focus more on her. I wanna redraw her because she was one of my favorite characters at the time. I had this whole world figured out that I wrote in a notebook that I can't find anymore. In this world, people got superpowers and they didn't know how, because I hadn't written that down yet. But basically, the regular people without superpowers like you and me, well, actually, I'm not regular. I'm kinda awesome. But the people without superpowers feared the new people with powers, so they kinda imprisoned them. But you can imagine how hard the job was to keep the prisoners in line when the people they were hiring didn't have any powers. It was way too dangerous, so people started to abandon their posts and just abandon the prison altogether. So they just left the city. They put a big gate around the city to keep them inside, and the supervillains kinda just took over the city. Now, there were, unfortunately, some people who were just nice people that got imprisoned, unfortunately. And that's where our main superhero comes, which we're not gonna talk about because he was kinda just a ripoff of Spider-Man Scarlet Spider with a different logo. I was very creative. But I remember this character in specific because she was the main villain. Her and her henchmen ruled the city. I need to improve my old line art. I use thicker lines where I know there's gonna be more shadow and thinner lines where I think the light is gonna hit more. So underneath the chin and inside the hoodie should be thicker lines than the top of the head. I have a thing for hoodies on characters. I love them, so I had to make sure I have her hoodie. Now, her original design is a gray shirt and maybe a purple dress. I changed that altogether because I didn't like the way it looked, honestly. I gave her a long dress which was still gray because the color gray was the colors of the prisoners. That was their prison uniform. And I gave her purple because when you are the supervillain in the city, you can just wear whatever you want as long as you can find it. And she had ways to find different textures and colors, and she changed her outfit. So I gave her these purple splotches on her dress, which I think look awesome. After I finished adding all the colors, I add a quick background. I show the fence in the background and the night sky, and I add some grass. I have improved so much in my rendering. I use the same technique as I mentioned earlier with the soft airbrush and bringing down that opacity very low. I add cel shaded layers on top of it, and I also add lighting on top of those layers as well, using the same technique. I make sure it doesn't look as muddy as the original does because that rendering was not good. I'm not gonna cover it up with a watermark, but don't steal my work. I'm gonna add a lot of grass to the foreground and a grassy background as well. I use Photoshop brushes to make the grass and brushes I have on Clip Studio as well. So I finished my redraw of this character and I love her. I do wish she looked a little bit more evil. She's supposed to be the big bad. She's supposed to be the Joker to Batman or the Green Goblin to Spider-Man, and she doesn't really portray that evil bad look. So I think I need to focus more on fixing her character design to make her more evil. But I do love the way she came out. She is beautiful, she is bad, and I think I've improved. Let me know in the comments down below if you like this one. Let me know if you think I improved, and I would really appreciate it if you can hit that like button. It really helps other people find me, it helps me improve as an artist, and it can help other people improve as an artist. And all you gotta do is hit like. And if you like what you see here, you can watch this video right here, where I redraw another old piece of art and I change the style drastically. Please hit subscribe, and remember, I'm awesome. I think. Thanks for watching.